so this is a special meeting of the Putney Select Board for the purpose of budget discussion. We'll call the meeting to order at 5:31. Any adjustments to the agenda, Karen?
No.
Okay, so the only thing we have on, well, I guess I should give a minute for if anybody, I think are Robin and Mary the only ones on? It looks
Yeah,
like
I don't know what this.
Who's
other one is.
user?
We're not sure.
User.
User.
Yes, whoever the second person is it
I don't think
possibly
they,
Kim? Is she?
No, Kim's not here.
they haven't commit. Oh,
There's one person who's listed on the video as user. And if you're going to be present in a public meeting, you need to identify yourself, please.
that's really weird.
I bumped him
It
off.
doesn't show any, it doesn't show a mic or a video.
Can you bump it
So,
up so it's not the very Dotson?
Can I go to the video?
Bump the user off, see what happens.
Yeah.
Remove.
Don't make those.
I don't,
Oh, there you
do
go.
I want to record?
You
No,
don't need to.
I just want
Okay, so Robin and Mary, this is an opportunity for public. I can't remember how it's worded because it's not in front of me, but public comment on items not on the agenda. Any comments?
Don't be adding to this.
No. All right, good, thank you, moving right along.
It's not on the agenda.
Track
Doesn't
budget
exist.
discussion.
Next week we'll have public comments. So first off, I have the highway and the general fund. I have some supporting documentation for some major numbers in the budgets. And I'm not quite sure how you want me to approach this.
Changes from last year.
What was that, David?
I said changes from the budget from last year. That's what we're going to point out.
Yes, yeah. So let me just start off by saying the fiscal 22 budget, what we're in right now for the highway and the general fund is $2,345,309. That's just half.
Just highway
And general fund with the library and everything else that goes into the general fund.
Yeah,
Would you like pens? I can get you
I would
some.
love one. Now that I have yours, I'm all set, but
you've spoiled us by
I know,
having
right?
it here, so now we don't bring.
Oh, now, there's none out here. Hang on, guys.
sorry, Karen.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank
But
you.
that was a perk of being a select board member is I get a free pen every meeting.
Was that part of
I
the
think so.
salary?
Yeah.
Yeah, explain it.
And bring it back.
Little delay.
Thank you.
Hi, can't use your highlighters?
Highlighters are for highlighting.
Yes. All right. So again, that
Sorry.
number, $2,345,309 for this year's budget.
For this year's.
Yeah, so the year that we're
When you're saying
operating.
the budget that's already been,
Highway and general fund.
Right, but this year's operating budget is that number.
okay.
For fiscal 23 draft, $3,229,852. So that's a difference of $884,544 or $43.
Say that
And
again. Sorry, now we got part of it.
difference of $884,543.
So that's about 10%. No, sorry, not 10%, 25%. Yeah,
It's gonna be
it's
more.
about 33%.
30,
Yeah, because-
240, right, yeah.
The highway budget is up, it was 30. Hang on a minute. It's on your report. Oh, that's the wrong one, sorry.
Where would you find this?
The dollar change from property taxes is an increase
Yeah.
of $222,000.
All right, so the highway budget is up 40.61%. The general fund budget is up 35.45%. And we're gonna go over this. And what you're gonna see in these two budgets is, there's a couple grants that we're going after. One is Tom's grant for the radios in the general fund, $375,000.
Yeah.
And then Brian is going after a structures grant for $175,000. Now, what happens too is in these budgets is a 6% cost of living raise.
Right.
And,
So just to go back to that for a sec, that's roughly $550,000 of that increase that would be coming in as grant money.
If we get those grants.
yeah, $475,000 is grant money.
Wait, I thought, oh, after match.
Right. So, given the 3.2 million, we have to add into the general fund 2.5% on that number for social service agencies. Social agency services. So that's another $80,746. So
On top of the 3,229,000.
yes,
Okay.
so there's the shock wave,
What was that, 80 what?
$80,746.
Okay.
In your packet for supporting documentation,
Wait a
there's,
minute, sorry, can you run through that one more time? How we end up with 80,000 more as a result of?
2.5% on $3.2 million.
So it's not a change of that much. It's a, right.
It's $80,000 that we have to add into the budget because it's not in there right now.
Oh, because it just hasn't been in, but what was it this year?
Right.
This year it was, I'll tell you that. It's,
So 2%, it's,
202 million.
so it's six. Between 6 and 7,000.
I think it was like 48, right? My memory.
That doesn't sound right, but yes.
So I guess I'm lost. So what, the social services was not in the budget last year?
No, it was in there. It's not in there right now.
It just hasn't been added
Right.
to the proposed budget.
Right.
Okay.
So on page
58 to
12,
32.
page 12 of the general fund.
It's just, you have a line item, but no
Right.
number in it.
Right. So it was 48,778 for this year.
So we add that 80% on the total budget, including the grant money? Doesn't make sense.
The 80,000 has to go into the budget.
Then
Right,
where are
but
we
why
gonna,
did it go from 48 to 80?
yeah,
Because of the increase in the overall number for both budgets.
Right, but if there's grant money that's pending, then I would say we don't put that in if that grant money isn't real. I mean,
Well,
that doesn't make sense to me, but
I know, and we had this conversation when I first started working here, and you said we shouldn't be showing that it's money in, money out. So you gotta show it somewhere.
Right, no, I understand that the grant money has
So
to be.
you want me
in
to
here.
pull it out of the big
Well,
number?
I'm just concerned, that social services, I mean, if we
I know,
up our
that's a
social
big
service
number.
budget by
Yeah.
that much,
Yeah, that's a big
which I still
number.
don't quite understand how we got that high, but, yeah, that doesn't make sense. I mean, what did you say the overall budget is? And it's 2% or 2.5%?
2.5.
Okay.
All right,
I was
So-
like,
I was,
just
yeah,
make sure.
I was doing two.
$3,229,852.
Times 0.02.
Why does it have to be 2%, 2.5%?
Because that's what the policy states.
That's our policy,
Yes.
the one that we were talking about the
Yes.
last time.
That's policy that's been in place for,
What do you get, David?
64,597.
yeah, I'm not sure how we did that.
I did it 3 times. I got that number
64
twice,
what?
so it's probably good.
It's
That's a
okay.
joke, okay?
I might have had something on the calculator and it was,
Let's try it again. We'll do it once more. It's been a long day.
yeah, it's been a very long
That
day.
makes sense. I mean, it's
I
two
agree.
times 3.2.
64,597.
Right.
Okay.
So I like that number better, but it's still,
But, so what I'm saying, Karen, is that I'm not sure, I agree that the grant money needs to be in here, and that makes total sense to me. But should we be paying social service percentage on grant money? I'm not so sure.
Yeah,
That doesn't make sense.
So just a simple general question, if we're gonna set up a budget in the hopes that we get a grant, but if we don't get the grant,
Exactly.
then how does that work? I don't have enough experience here to know how that works.
Right, well, that would mean, I mean, if we don't get those grants, and I don't think we did this historically, that grant, and again, I'm not arguing against the need for the grant money to
Right.
show up. But I think historically it was somehow separated out, but maybe I'm just
I
misremembering.
don't know, but we don't want to get hung up on that right
No,
now because it's
no.
gonna change, okay?
Yeah.
So let's not.
But I do, I think just because you brought it up specifically, the
Right.
social services budget, I don't think we should be necessarily contributing to the social service, not that I'm not in favor of contributing to social services, but I'm not sure that 2.5% of money rented should go towards social services, because those are special projects, that's a different thing. So I think we have to look at that policy and see whether there's.
So I just did that calculation with 2.5% and got 80,000. So,
No, you did,
We'll do it again.
so.
Anytime. Okay.
I put
You're not doing
2.5.
0.025.
Yeah, right. I make mistakes,
No,
but
64 makes sense at 2%.
Yes, that's what I did.
Oh,
Right.
okay,
There's-
yeah, that makes,
so what's the real number?
I got there, yeah. Careful.
I know, I've been, my head has been in numbers. all-
80,746.
All right. So that's gonna change.
I don't know why David was second guessing there.
I don't know either. I just been doing it all day. It's like, I'm going, that's a huge number.
I'm not second guessing, I'm trying to keep up, okay? Okay.
So,
If I write it down, I can go back and revisit it, okay?
so we'll talk about, that's the last piece that ever goes into the budget anyway,
Okay.
okay?
Because it's based on.
And it'll fluctuate.
Right.
So as the budget goes down, it'll go down.
Mhm,
It's
sure.
like, but if we can get it in line with this year, I'd be better. Let's just say this budget needs to be tweaked,
okay,
and we definitely need to look at some areas, okay?
But if it stays around 80, then it's not an increase of 884, it's an increase of 964. If that social services projection.
Right,
So it's $1
right.
million.
Yes. All right, so in your package, right, you have the health benefits?
Yeah.
Yep, all right, so I just want to point out between the payroll and the health for town government, full-time employees, it's $1,108,066. So that just gives you an idea of,
I'm sorry, payroll plus benefits.
yes,
Right.
just medical,
Yeah.
right?
Not pension.
Right. So the town of Putney is looking at spending $246,611.12 just on medical benefits,
Yeah.
okay? The dental is like $4,002. There's some little ones like vision and liability insurance, but they're really small. In your packet too is the payroll calculations. I didn't associate any names,
Wait, I'm sure you need this.
but, payroll is $861,455. And again, this is at a 6% cost of living raise.
So this is the projected.
This is projected at 6%. What I'd like to do is come back to the board with a second projection. Some towns are asking right now what municipalities are doing for cost of living, and it's anywhere from 2.5 to like 5.9. So it is the board's decision.
At our discretion.
Yeah.
What was it, what did we get that last year?
Last year I think it was like 2.4.
2 something.
Yeah. But that's something to look at and just kind of get your head around
And
it.
the 6% is what the state is projecting, they're gonna do.
Social Security is at 6%.
Okay, so we always start with that
Yeah,
percentage
As
and
a-
work up or down.
Yeah.
So the changes are the cost of living increase and the increase in healthcare, that cost of healthcare.
yeah, and that's
Okay.
part of the reason why both those budgets have gone up too. And you'll see that when we go through line by line. Those are the two important pieces right now.
When we go through this again, I always find it helpful to have a percent change
Yes,
column as well, so we can have.
I have that, a
Yeah,
copy if you want to look at it while we're
it's
talking about it.
it's fine, but.
No, I can have you look at this, it doesn't bother me a bit. 'Cause I know how you like the percentage, and I wish I could do both.
You can't
No, I can't do both on one report.
with Limerick. Why?
Yeah, I just gotta do one or the other.
Because it's Nimerick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So in your packet also, I gave you a report on long-term debt.
Saw that.
So, sorry, Karen, I'm not seeing on the projected on mine. Where's, it's because this is how it's never. So, general fund.
There's really not much to say about the long-term debt, other than it's in the general fund budget and in the highway budget.
Mhm.
And these numbers coincide with the numbers in the budget. So for the general fund, you're looking at $67,977 in principal payments, and then $9,339 in interest. For the highway department, with the equipment and the gravel pit, $160,211, and then $31,418 in interest. And then with the water and the sewer, which are in their own budgets, the total for the year will be $289,571 in principal payments. And the interest is at, I can't be right, is it? Yeah, $101,553.
Okay, and these are probably numbers that we don't have much leeway on,
No,
other than refinancing something or something.
I think we can only do that every certain number of years, so.
so all of these loans are basically from the bank, except for the fire station, the water system, and the sewer system, which were all refinanced not too long ago, and you can only refinance every 10 years. Oh, and the gravel pit too.
Hence the discussions about working towards a different system of having cash reserves
Right,
and then feeding the budget.
Right.
there instead of borrowing.
and I think too, with the bond bank, just with the gravel pit, it was 3.84%, right? On $1 million. And then, we gotta start shopping around, at local banks and seeing if sometimes they'll, have a lower rate. Because the bond bank,
But we can't change that.
no, we can't change that now. And the thing with the bond bank too, Eileen, is that you can't pay off the loan early.
In advance.
Yeah. So you're kind of like, you're stuck with it.
We're locked in with this.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely locked in.
And that's the largest portion of our debt is those three.
Yes.
Right? And that's,
And how close are some of these to being,
Um, do they have dates on here?
Well, now I'm assuming, Karen.
Oh, they
that-
do. The maturity date year is right there, right in the
okay,
middle.
so we have a
Yes.
truck.
What was that, Josh?
I'm assuming interest is front loaded pretty heavily, so that's the thing,
It is. If you look at the water system,
yeah.
so the principal payment is 36,808, and then your interest is 42,000. And to me, it almost looks backwards, but because sewer system is not like that, and the fire station is not like that. But
Because that's,
and what's weird is, so the water system matures in 2041 and the sewer is in 2037. So there's not much difference. It's same interest, and I'm just,
yeah.
it seems
that
backwards.
seems something's wrong.
Yeah, and it's been like that, Josh, and Alyssa and I noticed it. I gotta call the bank and just see why it's like that. And maybe because it was a refinance, I don't know, and they,
That makes a difference.
right,
I mean, the sewer system was refinanced in the same package. So.
I know, it's weird. So anyways, that's kind of the long-term debt, and,
if there is an optimistic part to this, there's a lot of equipment that's coming up to, the loans are ending in this block coming up in the next 3 years, which is really helpful.
yeah,
But
Well,
the
except.
projection for what we're buying to replace them, is it,
no, we're still good, we're in good shape.
Well, also, if you're looking at the interest aspect of that, we're kind of waiting for principal, our interest is those small, that short term.
because as you
Just
say,
a short term with
right.
really good rates.
Right.
And,
Right.
the 3 point, whatever it is for the bond is a reasonably good rate, but they're really long-term loans. So again, front loaded on interest is, so long-term loans. I mean, by the time we're, one that's expiring in 2041, for example, by the time we're in 2038, your principal payment is it's gonna be 5% payment versus 5% payment. Just the nature of these, they want their money first.
Of course.
So that's the debt schedule. Yeah, the only new, I mean, Tom's exhaust system was the only new payment this year. So that's a 5-year note as well. You know, the fire station will be paid off in 26, which is a good thing. He's got some small vehicles that, you know, we might consider paying off early, but I haven't thought that far ahead yet. And Brian, we got a plan for that, so. So I expect that you might have questions, you know, next meeting we have, which is fine. Or if you have questions, you want to email me too, we can do that.
I think, and I don't know that we can answer this, but you might be able to answer this question really fast. There are obviously parts of this budget that we can't do anything about. So long-term debt is one of them. What are the other ones that are kind of fixed costs that we don't have any leeway on?
So let's start with the highway department.
Point me to where you're looking, because I haven't read this before.
So I'm on page 1.
This is highway.
This is highway department.
I'm gonna massage this, I think, a little more. Only because, like, for revenue, state aid to highways. So in 21, you saw payments of 167,989. And then we're halfway through the year, we've already received 71,555. So if I double that, you know, we're at about 140. So, but, you know.
Sorry, can you say that again, Karen?
You projected.
Oh, state aid, what?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
So I'm projecting,
Yeah,
Josh,
yeah.
and, you know, I don't want to be like right on. I'd rather be a little bit lower,
Mhm.
and then if we get more, then it's better,
Right, yeah.
you know? So,
So is that a number that we don't, do they?
the state pays us that.
Okay, they don't tell us what they're gonna pay us, or do we not know what they're gonna? give
Not
us?
usually, no, it's a formula.
It's the
that-
state.
Yeah,
It's
it's a formula
another
that
secret
they
state
use
formula, okay.
based on how many miles of roads we have. So,
Wouldn't it, okay,
yeah, no, there's a formula and it changes and you have to go through this whole process. In April, we do it.
It tells smoke plus mirrors equals what you get.
Yeah. So,
okay,
You don't count on anything. You pray for
Right.
everything.
hopefully
Right.
everything goes your way at the end, okay.
What's the structures going to, right here?
the structures grant is for like box culverts.
Okay.
So we get a grant, you know, 175,000, it's probably gonna be, you know, it's 200,000 in the expenditure because we have that 25% match. So, but basically, it's a wash. So you
Yeah.
take the 100, yeah, it's about what, 20,000, 25,000?
Mhm.
25,000 is what the town would actually, you know,
But
on a tax.
But it's in community
But-
tax.
as you know, with highway department, it's largely in kind.
In
Right.
kind, right.
And
Right.
Brian was saying that he felt confident they actually did more than most towns so that the match wouldn't be a problem.
Right,
Yeah, okay. Right. What I thought I remember saying.
yes. So, you know, and if you want to get down to nuts and bolts, Josh, you know, it's like if we know we're gonna have the match in kind, you know, do we just take the structures grant out and the expense out too.
I'll do it that way.
But
I don't
then,
know, that's the question. I mean, to me, that would be a question probably for the auditor. You know, is there a way we can, because I would have to imagine that we shouldn't be assuming that I mean, I don't know whether because we've been doing it this way for a while.
yeah, Chip is the one that started it and.
Right, so have
Yeah.
we been paying social service budget on that all along? I'm not sure we have.
Well-
And because that's a wash, that doesn't really actually
Right,
count as increasing.
Right.
It shouldn't, it's also, I mean, just from my perspective, if it's grant money, then it's granted to a special project that shouldn't fall under
Right.
that policy, but
I will get an answer from the
Okay.
auditor.
And the other question is, when we're setting the tax rate, what number are we setting the tax rate off of? Are we,
It's off the budget
so are we including the
and
expenses?
the grand less.
But it's,
Right,
Yes.
and I know how the formula
Yes.
works, but I'm wondering which,
Right.
are we using the same number that we're basing the 2.5% off of the total? Or are we taking the grant money out before we set that rate?
well, it's the amount to be raised by taxes, so yes, the grant money, I mean, presumably our match would be in there for money that needs to be raised, but
Yes.
not the grant money itself.
Right.
Right.
So it's,
So in-
so
in
so
kind
it's,
should be-
so it's minus.
When you see the other side, Emily, you might understand
Hopefully
it.
it'll all come together,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah,
All right,
because the thing is, I can take the 175 out of the revenue, but then I'd have to change,
Take it out of expenses.
I'd have to change the expenses, but leave 25,000 in there because that's our match.
Which is what it should, because we have to raise that 25,000.
Right,
So
right.
that's.
okay, so you're saying, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that makes, oh,
And here's the thing, because I can do the same thing with Tom's, grant,
Mhm.
if it's, moves forward, and I would do the same thing with that.
Yeah, I mean, I
Thing
think
is-
probably part of it is, well, I mean. Tom,
Grants are not guaranteed,
Right, exactly.
so,
So, but in his words too, if he doesn't get the grant, we don't get the radios, and then it's their expense.
Yeah,
yeah, it would be a
yes, I
huge
mean,
expense.
But if he doesn't buy the radios,
then there's no expense.
Right.
But,
that's what I'm
but then
saying.
we're
Yes.
stuck with old radios that are, right. the
I'm not
expense
saying we
might
should or
be-
we shouldn't, I'm just talking about,
Right, right,
because I remember him saying that.
And that expense might be that 2 radios break in that period of time and we have to replace them anyway.
yeah,
And are we gonna go to the newer technology if we're doing that, presumably, so it'd be, what did he say, $6,000 a pop, so.
Crazy. And so the grant's for 3 and our match is 75.
No,
Is that,
no, it's in there, it's 3.
the total grant, I think, is 375.
It is 375, but, yeah, but the 25% is the 75,000.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
that's what I remember.
Sorry.
We were
Yeah.
gonna come up with
Yeah,
75.
Tom explained that to me, and I'm like, okay, now you're like.
So if we don't have to raise taxes to pay for it, then where's it coming from?
To raise the 75, we would have.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you would
Okay.
have to have
Yeah.
taxation to raise that 75,000.
Maybe that's the next fund drive, like the pool.
Yeah. All right, so I will ask the auditor about that. We can, again, this is just preliminary draft costs. All right, so we're back to the highway department, right?
yeah,
All right. So on page 2, health insurance, you see it's $29,800 increase.
Page 2, what was it again? Can I just tell you?
$29,800
Oh, wow.
increase.
insurance, oh,
Salaries increase $28,150.
This is all based on a 6%. Well,
Yes.
that's, the insurance doesn't matter, but the,
Right. And just so you know, I think, did I give it to you?
And the health insurance went up that much because we got more employees.
No, so we have 4 people in the highway department on the insurance. And 3 of them have family and the other one has a double. 2 have opted out. So, yeah, the family plans are $28,698 a year. Right.
$18,000 more.
Yep, and the town is, it's 90-10, 90% the town and 10% the employee.
And what do most towns do for that ratio?
80-20. So
80-20, some are doing 85-15, and this is the platinum MVP. So it's the top tier of the insurance.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So we pay for the family plans, the full cost of a family plan?
No,
No, okay.
the town pays 90%. So the town would pay for family plan, Mary, $25,828.21.
So the town pays for the family plan though? I mean, because where I used to work, we had to add for each member of the family, we had to pay it. But for the town of Putney,
The town's paying it,
They're paying
Okay.
90% of it.
yes.
right, okay.
So,
Is there an opportunity to play around with that percentage or possibly go with a different model?
so what I can do is I can do an 80-20
Mm-hmm.
and see what the savings would be.
Our insurance is through VLCT.
No,
No.
MVP.
Okay.
Not for this.
This was
Our
for
liability.
liability,
general
okay,
right.
insurance, yes.
So this
I mean,
is,
unfortunately,
this
going-
is calendar year too, so,
So it's coming right up.
yeah. And we
Well,
wouldn't miss
yeah.
the-
Wouldn't be able to
Right, I don't
do
think we
anything
can
until
change it
next
right now,
Right,
year.
but we're in the current budget
Yeah.
year anyway. So
Right.
it doesn't matter.
right,
But we'd be 6 months.
But you would have to
into
be
this.
6 months
Right.
into this before we can
Right.
change over.
right. And I don't know if we can change mid-calendar year,
I
but,
don't think so.
I mean, I look at this, we just switched to MVP from Blue Cross Blue Shield a year ago. Might have been 2 years ago.
I know
To
switching
save
is-
money.
Yeah,
So,
I know the switching is,
It's a headache.
it's a headadeck, it's stressful for everybody. I totally get that.
well, the thing is, you got, there's some people too that require,
It can be
Good.
problematic. in
Yes.
delay periods.
Right.
Yeah.
because then things are denied because they have pre-existing and,
Yeah.
it's like, sometimes it's a life or death situation. But I do look, I do shop around, I do, and maybe it's time we do it again.
3-year cycle, maybe. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, the frustrating thing about going to 80-20, which would be, nice for us to do, but I'm making the assumption that that would cause roughly a 10% change in what our budget is for that, so that we'd go from 219 to 200. That's $20,000, which is not nothing.
nothing.
Right.
But at the same time, when you put it in the picture of it's less than 1% of our budget.
Right.
It's just, and it's not an insignificant burden on families, so. That's tough one.
So
Yeah.
four families we're talking about would have to cover that 20,000, that would be,
No, it's significantly more than 4. That's the total for all of our employees. So all of our employees that are insured, so it's 5, 9, 10, 11, 10, 11, 12. Is it 12?
so that's like 1,000, under 1,000 per,
No, 11.
It would be more than 1,000 per.
okay, over stretched out, and are we contractually obligated to go a full year? Why couldn't?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, we are with the insurance company.
Right.
Because it's here, right, but that's the difference, Emily, there, and I don't know whether you were talking about, the insurance companies run on calendar year. We
yeah,
run on
Right.
fiscal year,
Yeah.
so, so it's always a 3-month
Yeah,
or a 6-month shift in trying to figure that out.
I'll look into that a little bit more.
well, I think, well, for me, I'll just give my perspective. I go natural in everything, so I don't ever use the insurance. And I know it's a big picture thing, but I just wanted to give that feedback that I think there's a lot of health things that we could do differently, and I'm not gonna suggest that you think about it now.
Yeah,
I think the thing about health insurance is not so much the day-to-day care, it's the catastrophic,
Yeah.
car accidents that you definitely need to have covered.
Yep.
And
chronic illness.
And chronic illnesses,
I mean, No, I don't disagree with you, Emily, on the value of that, but it's not something we can
Right,
tell our employees that we need to.
right,
We could encourage it, and I mean, actually, our insurance company for HCR, or BLCT anyway, we have had those wellness programs, they promote well-being. But that's up to employees to
Yeah.
take advantage of that or not.
So in a calendar year on a family plan that costs us $28,698.01, the employee covers $2,800 a year.
No,
Is that right?
10%.
10%.
yeah, 10%.
So that would change from 28 to 56 would be.
No, oh,
30.
yeah.
Because it would double,
Yeah,
because we're going
double,
from 10 to 20, so that would be
Yeah.
$5,600 a
Yeah.
year divided by
that's,
12.
yeah, it's probably pretty significant.
Yeah.
I was more thinking about different models,
So
if there were
that's
different models to.
$466 a month.
That's huge.
That's what I pay for insurance right now, it's $464 a month.
wait, but that doesn't get divided by 12, because everybody has a different,
Right.
because it's different for everybody.
This,
So their
family.
percentage would be different, right? Oh,
That's
divided by,
right.
per month, I see what you're
Right,
saying.
I'm
I
just
thought
saying,
you were dividing by the
that's-
number of employees.
no, I'm saying that
Yeah.
as we look at
Right.
an individual family, and you want to
Change.
consider the burden,
Mhm.
it would go from
Yeah.
233 to 466, another $232 a month
Yeah,
That's a lot.
per family.
yes,
Yeah, I don't know what
So
I'm
just
doing.
so we have some numbers to think about, to
Right.
set of percentages.
The other thing too is, so we have the HRA, which is the health equity. And what that does for employees, it basically covers the out-of-pocket. And the town pays 75% of that. So if you change the medical, then we're gonna have to look at the HRA contribution as well.
and that accumulates, is that right? I can't remember. We had that
HR
kind of-
does, okay.
So, but we make this equal contribution every year, or we keep a level amount in it every year?
No, we,
I mean, if somebody doesn't use it at all, and they have 2,800 in their HRA, for example, if it's a family.
right.
Do we then contribute another 2,800, so they're up to 56?
Not necessarily. So what happens is it's in the budget. So the library, the highway, and then the general fund, it's all broken out.
Right.
And then that money is transferred into a separate account just for the HRA. So we don't put it all in there. So some of it might just end up staying in the general fund. So
Okay.
we have to
So-
monitor
so-
that every
Right, so it's not cumulative over long term. I mean, we don't have to keep
No.
paying into it unless it gets spent down.
Right,
Okay.
so, yeah, because there's not like the separate account with all this extra money in it, that doesn't,
And we hold those monies, not the employees.
Right,
Okay.
right. Yep,
Yeah, it's not an HSA, so it's not an individual
A
account
cumulative,
Right.
for the
exactly. That's
individual.
what I was wondering.
Yeah.
so. Moving along, I'm on page 3 now.
So just to revisit that for 1 second, sorry,
Sure.
I know it's sort of a small point, but so if we budget for that every year, if we don't use it, it just shows up as surplus.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Can I ask something? Is there any way to incentivize things like quitting smoking?
There is, that's what I was talking about, the
But
wellness program.
is it monetarily incentivized?
No,
Not too-
So in other words, a way to incentivize it would be with that percentage that you're gonna put in that they need. If somebody agrees to go through quitting smoking or something,
Right,
then you can say, we'll increase that ratio. Just an idea.
There are some insurance policies out there that do reimbursement programs, but I don't know if this one does.
and I'm guessing that would be, one, it could be cumbersome, but also, and not that that's not okay, but I'm guessing it might be okay for an insurance company to do that. I'm not sure as a municipality.
Right.
The legal right to do that, I don't know.
a question for VLCT.
Yes,
So back to page 3, on winter maintenance, like 3/4 of the way down. So again, that salary's $24,000 increase.
so that's contract winter.
No, that's for our people.
That's because of the 6%.
So Josh, if you look at the payroll calculations I gave you,
Right.
so highway has regular maintenance, which is like spring, summer, fall. And so those wages.
So it's just a breakdown of the two different seasons.
Right, right.
Yeah,
So way to the left, you can see summer, $164,844, and then winter, that's usually the overtime, 110 hours are calculated at time and a half. That's a total of $134,711.
Right here. Middle of the column, here.
Which column?
Breaks winter and summer.
yeah.
Far right of the left hand.
Oh,
highlight.
okay, got it, yeah.
So the total for highway, regular and winter is.
Right, I just didn't, I
Yeah.
wasn't sure.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
You're
And
not
then-
used to seeing these. I've
Well,
never
we-
given these. to you,
Right,
so.
we
It was a
also,
good format. I'm trying to learn it.
I know, they're all different.
okay, so that doesn't, what I was wondering, does that include the on-call person? So yes, that's
Yes.
already in.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right.
So,
And then going back to the comparison to 22 budget, the difference is 32,000.
right,
And then general, and then 24 for winter.
correct.
Got it, okay.
You're getting it, David. Did you see that?
3 or 4 years into it, I can get it.
Oh, I see what you're saying, so it's 24 for
confused
winter and 12 for
So
summer.
fiscal year 21 we just finished, that's what we just had audited.
Yeah,
And then fiscal year 2022 is the year we're in right now
okay.
for operating budget. And we're projecting for fiscal year 2023.
The number is always a year ahead.
Yeah.
It took me a whole year to go home, like, what?
I have
is
trouble
going on
remembering what
here?
year we're in it anyway, so,
Karen's an amazing teacher.
Just get on the same page with me,
The
Eileen.
fact that she still works here and still listened to me for a year and a half, asking all these questions. over and
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, so the first year David was in my office like all the time.
I was every day. Just
I
like,
don't
I don't
understand,
get this.
I don't understand where you get that 32,000 from.
Right here.
Right, where?
halfway down, page 3,
Yeah,
Page 3.
highway general maintenance, change of 32,150.
right, but then you're adding to that 24,000 for winter.
Is that not correct, Karen?
Where are you, David?
Page 3,
Page 3.
total highway general maintenance, 32,150, that's the change from this year's budget.
Right.
And Josh is saying, is the 24 part of that, or does it get added to it? As winter is separated out,
Yes,
it gets added to, or it's part of?
part of what? The
Part of
general
the
maintenance?
32.
Yes, part of the general maintenance. No, because it's.
Where are you seeing the 32? Lost.
That's a good.
Oh, no, that's the total of all of those sections,
Got
David.
it, so this is
Yes,
payroll for
yeah,
winter maintenance,
yes.
and that's for vehicle stuff.
yeah, that's
Got
for
it,
other
okay,
stuff.
very
So
good.
what
So
you
two-
want to look at though, right here. So here's
So
the general maintenance salary,
Got it.
Right,
28,150 and
And
then
then-
24,000.
exactly.
That's your increase.
I got
So that's 50
Yeah.
52,000.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
that's why I couldn't figure it out.
All right. So yeah, that's your total increase on salaries.
And of course, that's dependent on what kind of winter we have too.
Right.
Yeah.
But again,
Yes,
you
but
know,
it's still budgeted.
It's not like,
Right,
yeah,
right.
this is all projection.
Yeah. you know,
For next week, next,
For
2022,
start-
2023.
Exactly, starting July 1,
July 1.
2022.
So
Yes.
handy that it's different from the regular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just to make it more fun for assessing purposes, everything ends on April 1st.
Say it again. what are you gonna say?
For assessing purposes, everything ends on April 1st.
Yeah.
Because the grand list has
Because
to
the
be
grant list
filed.
has to be
Right.
filed, so we
Yeah.
base everything off of April 1st, and
Right.
then there's the fiscal year, and then there's,
Well, that would be a fee, you could give somebody a noble price, just to line it all. up.
Straighten all that out, yeah, no kidding.
Are you gonna get to a section about fuel, sorry,
So,
fuel use?
Yes, we'll get there.
So would it be easier, or is it actually a gift that there's 3 different starting and ending points, because it'd be too much to do all at one point?
it's,
That's really a question.
this
I
is
think-
why I don't know what year it's in, or what year we're in. That's basically,
right now, we're in 22.
Good.
I've heard that argument before, and I don't know, I don't do it.
Although it's
Yeah.
only 21.
And to be
It's
perfectly
21.
clear, it was not an argument, that was a question.
No.
I've heard people argue about that,
I got it,
argue for that,
Sure.
and that exact discussion has come up. Would this be more or less what, and everybody sort of stares around. and goes,
They're all like, well, let's let somebody else do that.
Or the century.
All right, back to the budget, page 4.
all
Well,
right.
take care.
This is a small budget. The
What
other
hurt in
one
half,
is gonna be
right?
like- Yes, so the structures grant, I do show the $200,000, and I will question that with
Page
the auditor.
4, okay, got it.
Yes.
Is that under, oh, I see, it's under grant projects.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whether to list it and or not list it.
And now I'm on page 5.
Well, and just to be clear about that, I don't have any argument to listing it here. I just am concerned
About social.
about how it affects the
Right,
exactly.
right.
social services
Yes.
budget.
And I'll have to read the budget, I mean, not the budget, sorry.
policy,
The
social
policy to
services
make
policy.
sure, but it,
It may not mention it.
no,
Just-
it does. Well,
Oh, it
not
does.
that piece, hang on that, I have it right here.
Besides figuring out what amount of money needs to be raised from taxes to cover the budget, is there anything else that will be affected by a change in the total number? In other words, if we list it and it adds to the total number, even though it doesn't
No.
affect how much money we have to raise
Raise
in
from
taxes, does it
taxes.
affect anything else that I'm not aware
Not the price of fuel going up?
No,
No.
well, that will affect the amount we need to raise for taxes.
of? You get to.
Oh, in real
understand.
time or
Yeah, any other,
Yeah,
So what
No,
was
so
it?
Not that I can think of.
okay.
No,
So-
that's just
Right.
money that comes in
Yeah.
for other,
That's the last
We're not,
question you
not applying
asked.
for grants or anything that would affect.
I don't know where it is, I had it in here, but.
So if that, I mean, we expect it's gonna go up pretty high. And a lot of things are happening.
Yeah.
Globally, so, if just to be prepared for any eventuality. The fuel went to $70 a gallon of regular gas. I know you use diesel, so
Right,
that would be like.
right.
$10. Then we
Yeah.
would go to an emergency fund, and then we would go take it to next year.
We essentially have a reserve fund for that kind of thing. I mean, we would, in that instance, we would just, yes, basically spend the money, and then if we had to do that, it would show up as deficit at the end of the year, and then we would adjust it all sort of. would come out over time. But it's nicer to be able to project it, but I mean, I think right now, you said, Karen, you were projecting a 3% increase on fuel, is that right? Which
But we have an inflation that's already up at, what, 6,
Yeah.
7?
You added $5,000 to the vehicle this year. I saw
To
that.
both
Yep,
sides,
right,
yeah.
yep.
Because Brian,
for general and for highway,
yes, in winter, yep, fuel,
which
and-
reflects what kind of a percentage.
right.
You said a couple percent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a couple, but it might.
You should have it,
Yeah,
like the,
exactly.
Putney,
I had,
30,000 instead of 25,000, so.
so that's a 20% increase.
So you're gonna present this to town meeting.
Yeah.
And you can say that, we do expect like 6% inflation.
It's actually a 20% increase is what's budgeted.
20.
Sorry, the anticipation initially was 3%. But you put in a chunk more.
Okay,
Page 5.
Moving right along.
So, under capital and debt service, you notice principal payments decreased by $47,500. Interest went down a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, and that's
That's
because we've retired the payments on
correct.
2 vehicles, is that right?
This is, for oh, no. Yeah.
Yes.
So here we go, not keeping it short again. So that money is then, do we then budget that towards the capital reserve?
It's gonna be, no,
No, okay,
if we go on to the last page,
okay,
capital equipment reserve, 145,000, it's a brand new line item. This is where the surplus comes into play,
got it.
Okay.
okay?
Yep.
And this select board can move money into the highway reserve account that you created last year, or in March, sorry, for this year. So that's how we're gonna do this. So as these payments come off, and I think it was like 120,000 that we just paid off like last year. And
Right.
Brian and I had the
We paid off
conversation.
one early, I remember that.
Well, we paid off 2 last
Okay,
year, and then we paid off the sidewalk a little bit early.
Oh.
And then there was another small one that's gonna go this year.
Okay, so
So,
you're saying that the negative balance, 47,500, those could offset the
the
amount of money.
145,
Okay,
To
Yeah.
202.
yeah,
okay,
That's my question.
Right, right.
okay.
Sorry, to 202, where'd you get?
Well, if there's 47.5 that's not being spent on a piece of
Right,
equipment
right.
that was budgeted, if
Yeah.
you leave it in the budget, but instead of it making a payment on the equipment, it then gets put into this capital
Right,
debt
right,
account, whatever,
yes.
then that would increase this 145
right.
to, I didn't add that.
Or-
Yeah, no,
That's too much.
Right.
I
Like,
had it wrong.
yeah,
but
I was thinking the opposite direction. I was thinking that it would reduce the amount of money that we would need to. I guess
It
we still have
reduces
the, we still
anyway.
have the number on, okay.
right.
I mean, this is the absolute number, but the amount we would need to
Yes.
raise for taxes would go
It
down.
lowers that,
Okay,
It's
Right.
interesting the way that's listed, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
and the 47.5, either way, we don't have to pay that because there isn't a payment due.
correct.
So if you, if you just use it to justify this, for all practical purposes,
Right.
the amount we're paying out in any given year, towards a capital fund is more like 98 because we
Right.
reduced it by
Right.
47.5, you know, and it's just
Yeah,
Yes.
just always looking at it,
Yeah.
so, but 145, and I'm not arguing that we shouldn't put that larger number in, but that's a big number for 1 year.
You're gonna try to get used to that number every year.
Well, that's the question,
Yeah.
because then the idea would be that, so it's that. Yeah, I think the way I'm thinking of it is that if we were to, you know, just for example, put that 47.5 plus the interest of 4,075, so say 50,000, just to keep it simple. If we were to put that 50,000 here, then next year, when we retire another vehicle payment, that goes to 75, so that we're paying out the same, or.
I
same
understand, but it won't be, we won't catch up. So
Right.
Brian's intent is to buy one piece of equipment each year.
To the tune of roughly 145,000.
well, a little more.
Well, a
Once-
little more,
Yeah.
because,
Right.
yeah, because the surplus,
Right.
that's usually left over in this 21, he had like $50,000 in surplus.
Right.
Okay, so that,
Oh, and so we don't know what that surplus will be until July,
Right.
so we don't know how
Right.
that's gonna affect us.
Right.
Okay, I get
And
that.
we dare not counter that idea that he needs a new vehicle every year.
We've been through this a lot, it's a
Yeah.
tough equation.
Believe me, I started in the place where you are, and the truth is, these machines get used. And
Yes.
they have a life
Hard
expectancy,
and long.
and it is not the life expectancy that you and I grew up with vehicles,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
There's a lot of factors.
And it's a lot of vehicles, and the other thing is, it's, downtime is really expensive. So when you look at, I mean, the idea of what we're trying to do here is to fund this capital reserve so that instead of having to borrow to purchase
Right.
vehicles, which for the last 10 years, we've had really low rates, so it's been favorable to us for a long time. We know it's not gonna stay that way forever.
right,
But so if we had this money put aside, you know, if you look at having 145 put aside every year, which I agree with you, it would be nice if we didn't have to do that. And just last year, we had this very conversation about a loader. And then just when we were debating whether we should do something or not, something in the loader started making a sound that made it clear that we should move it along as quickly as we could. So, you know, they really do have a lifespan. And if we weren't so dependent on them to do the work we need to do, then we could play with that more. I mean, you know, for any one of us, if you have a vehicle and it breaks down, well, that's a bummer, you stay home another day, you know.
Right.
It sucks, but it doesn't stop, you know,
right.
50 people from getting to work who live up on Putney Mountain, so it's.
And Brian can't do his job with basically a minimal crew unless everything works right now.
And he
Right.
works year round on something, whether it's road
Exactly.
grading or something.
All the
There
time.
are projects forever.
Forever.
Yeah,
And my thinking in the beginning of this was just like yours, if we can get one more year out of that loader, and that money can start this fund even bigger, we'll get to a place where replacing the money every year
Is what
Yeah.
is less, and we'll be able to start this program sooner. But the truth is, if the loader breaks, nobody drives.
Yeah.
And so that's it.
Yeah, there's two thoughts that I'm percolating, and they can be wiped right off the stove if they're not useful to cook through. One is that that could we integrate the needs of the community to hire any of these people in the downtime? If there's no downtime, that doesn't make any sense. So we could, you know, fill up the coffers a little bit more. So if somebody needs a loader or something and there's a day that isn't being used, a private person could hire them, and we could.
we can't,
Well,
we
that-
can't make money like that.
And we just don't have
Yeah.
downtime. I mean,
Okay,
yeah.
this group is busy
Yeah.
every day, all year round.
The second thought, and this might not apply to here, it's just a back of my mind thought, is we got that whole park and ride space and nobody's using it.
Yes,
That can we come up with a way to make it generate revenue? I haven't thought of one, but
I'm
it's
pretty
Pretty sure that the
owns
state
that.
owns that.
state of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, and the other thing, just legally, we can't generate income. Like,
Right.
we couldn't charge somebody to go out and take our equipment out. We're just not.
Can't do that.
Yep, that's.
We can't even invest,
Okay.
we can't even invest money. in
And
interest.
Is that a statute thing?
Yes,
Believe me, that was my first question when I came here.
Product.
How do we make money?
Well,
I get it. but
you are
we're so boxed
incorporated, you
in.
know, it's like, okay,
And just
thank you.
on that note too, about replacing every year. So the grader and the backhoe we just paid off last year. Brian has no intent of buying a grader
of
right off.
course, right.
So,
But
and that's a big dollar item, it's $300,000.
that's the thing, so that's,
So, and this is why the reserve fund was set up,
right.
to get away from the borrowing.
When you have an off year, you bankroll or
Right,
bank that much more so that when you have to buy the grader,
right.
you can afford that. Yeah,
So-
no,
so,
it makes sense to me.
Even Brian's budget, I mean, for 23, if he has $160,211 in principal payments, and he's paying, we're paying $31,418 just in interest. That's an equipment payment right there, you know?
Right, and that's,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
yep.
so,
So I guess the real question is, looking at the schedule of the period of time that we're gonna not have payments on pieces of equipment like the grader, and when trucks are going to be replaced, and what's the amount of money that has to go in each year to get us to the spot
Right.
where we're not borrowing money, and yet we stay on the replacement program.
yeah. So truck number 3 is due to be replaced, and 175,000 is
Right.
what Brian's looking at. It always comes in lower.
Yeah.
Same thing with the loader.
Yep.
So even though we have a projection,
Mhm.
you know, but 145 is,
A reasonable
Yes.
middle range.
yes,
It's
Yeah.
not high, and it's not shooting low.
right,
Well, and the other thing we've talked about is that if we had that capital reserve, and, you know, even if we only can put 250 towards a $300,000 vehicle when we need to purchase it, then that means we only have to borrow 50 as opposed to 300. So, yeah, and I mean, you know, just to play devil's advocate, there's also those who believe that stockpiling this kind of money doesn't make sense. Again, given the interest rates we've had, you know, we've been lucky, although, as you say, the cumulative interest on all of those loans adds up to be a lot of money.
yes,
So,
yeah,
but you know, you can't. I mean, I understand what you were saying about that interest alone being the payment on another vehicle, but that interest is on whatever it is, 7 or 8 or 9 vehicles.
right, right.
So it does, you know, it doesn't, you know, I mean, you know, yes, it's all money in, money out.
Right.
But at the same time, when you're being able to support 7 vehicles through that interest payment as opposed to just 1, then that's different. But again, you know, if interest goes to 6, 8, 10%, all of a sudden,
Yeah,
your interest payments are massive.
So on these maturity years, on the long-term debt, are those fiscal years or are those the calendar year?
That's a really good question. But I thought the fire station was 27, and it says 26.
I think that.
that's the year it matures.
Right,
Yeah,
That
sure.
would be,
So this year,
27 is the first year we don't have the payment.
right,
Yeah, but that's a tricky question
Right.
because the bond bank works on a different schedule. So,
I was trying to assess out how many vehicles are going off of the roll this year or the next. So there's
Well,
this
just
one
one.
year that has, for 2021, that's this year though, is it this?
it'll be
December?
done by the end of the year.
This-
We've already paid, we've actually
And
already paid that off,
And
right?
then,
so the,
and then there's another one here that has a maturity date of 2022, so is that going off at the end of next year? Meaning that it would not be in our budget for this year?
So is that,
No,
I think
if-
she's asking if
if
there'll be
you-
4 or 5 vehicles that are off at the end of this year.
Yeah,
what, 4 or 5?
I'm
No.
sorry.
No,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Just
it's-
I
one
counted
is
the wrong
coming out.
column, sorry.
this is, the maturity year is calendar year.
Right,
okay,
So, and it all depends on when we purchase the vehicle. Because the
Because-
payments start on the day that we will not necessarily.
the
be
payment
doing,
doesn't
but-
start until the following year. So,
following fiscal year,
yes,
typically.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so if I read this right, then there are 1, 2, 3 vehicles vehicles that will come off the rolls by at least by end of calendar year next year.
By June 30th.
By
Oh,
June
by end of
30th.
calendar. Those are,
There are three or
there are
four.
3 that are already,
There are 3 that are already paid off, or there's 2.
Are you looking at fiscal year 22?
I don't know.
no, if you look
I'm
at
looking at-
21, Karen, I mean, where are we on those 3 that are listed for 21? No, well, there's 4
I was looking at
listed for
maturity
21,
year.
sure.
And then,
Right. I think it's very, very good. I think,
So these right here.
But if we look at the year and the payment and the year maturity,
All right, so on the 21s,
right,
the very first one,
yeah,
so that's $6,120
Yeah.
will be paid in this fiscal year,
and, okay,
okay?
so that's
So
21.
fiscal year-
That's what we're counting,
Right,
that's
right,
the-
right.
That's the confusion,
Yes.
that's why I counted
Yes.
part of it.
okay,
Yes,
all
Again.
right, so,
So that's. why.
so on
I
these
get it,
2,
thank you,
for
sir, I get
example,
it.
there is no balance.
right,
That's
so
why I
we
said-
basically
so-
paid those
Yeah.
off already.
so Eileen, the 20,400,
Yeah,
Yes,
that one's gonna go this year.
and, this is the end of fiscal year 2, okay. Okay,
yeah.
And then-
exactly.
okay, so
And-
that one's leaving,
And so
That
will
will
the
leave-
6120.
the 6120 is leaving,
Yes,
okay.
But wait a minute, why does it say balance at the end of FY 21?
because that's in this year. 21, 22, guys.
No, I
Yeah, I
know.
know.
Right.
Okay, so, but this says FY 21.
That's
Oh,
fine.
21, so that was balanced at the end, right, that was
Right,
balanced
right.
last July.
July,
Yes.
right.
Oh
So
my gosh, okay.
Yeah, this is, I
don't
know.
get into it. All right, so the backhoe and the grader were paid
Have already been
last
paid off.
year. And we paid that 28,105 we paid last year early, remember?
The sidewalk.
Yes.
Yeah.
That one's been paid off too.
Yes.
Oh, that's great, and that's.
So you're gonna drop 2 actual payments.
So it will be 4.
3 actual payments, but one of them is small. We're gonna drop the 28,105, 20,400, and the 6100.
The 28,105 already
We
got
did that.
paid.
He's already gone, sorry.
Yes,
Yeah,
yep,
It's already gone.
yes,
yeah, we paid it off in advance.
I
So it
know.
would be 5 payments, 4 pieces of equipment have been
Yeah.
paid and 1. the sidewalk. Yeah.
Okay.
I know it's confusing,
But yeah.
yes.
May I ask a question?
I don't know, as long as it's the right, as long as it's the right question.
You can
Rob.
ask a question, we might not answer it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. Well, it doesn't involve months or fiscal years, if that helps. And what year is this? It's the fiscal year of the monkey, by the way, I think. So anyway, so have we been able to start this capital reserve fund for highway equipment yet? And
Yeah.
how much is it at this point?
We started it with 5,000.
So last year, you might recall, that was an article, wasn't it?
Yes.
So because in order to have a reserve fund, Robin, the voters have to vote to have that. And then it can go in the budget after that we put money in it, so it's not an individual, but creation of an account of a reserve fund is voter. So last town meeting, we had an article where we voted to create a reserve fund for the highway department and fund it with $5,000, correct?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So just there.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
There we can.
That's a wrap on the highway department.
Hallelujah. That was so quick and easy.
Yes.
Um,
We never have to touch it again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, many times. By the time we're done, you'll actually understand.
Okay, I
No, not
believe you.
necessarily.
I believe you.
Well, I mean, it's pretty sure. I think she probably will.
Any questions on the general fund?
No, we're also, I'm all set on the general fund.
General fund wants to know when you serve dinner.
All right,
Yeah.
Right?
so.
Said pizza in this fund.
So basically,
Taxes net of education, what does that mean?
Property
that's,
taxes.
this is what we have to raise, Eileen.
As opposed to what we will have to,
Right.
what we actually have to, as
Yes.
opposed to what we have to bill the townspeople once we've
Yes.
also been given our
The
education.
education.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Gotcha.
So basically, as you can see, property taxes to be raised has gone up $160,243 because of the increases in. And the other thing we've been talking about is revenue streams, which
Yes.
I'll lay out some ideas in the next few meetings.
Okay.
That might help reduce this burden.
So, sorry.
Can we just, because I don't understand this line. So the actual, there's a budget and an actual for fiscal year 2022. Oh, we're in 20, okay, never mind, I got it.
But I was gonna ask that because this is actual, this is current actual.
The 991 is correct,
Yes.
actually, right?
Yes.
So, but we still have 6 more months. Our turn is awfully, I mean, our actual is awfully close to our budget.
That's a pretty good thing.
Well, no, because we have to move money, because remember we just did 1.2 million to the school.
Oh, okay, so that's why,
Yes.
because this,
Yes.
because this would
Yes.
mean we only had $71,000 left to spend
Right.
between now and June.
Right.
So that's not right.
Yeah, no, money gets moved over.
Move from,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
I would introduce you to the balance sheets, but that would
No.
be more.
It's moved like, okay, you're not gonna do that.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll do that another time.
I'm curious how you, the revenue, I'm curious to hear about the revenue streams, since it seems to contradict what you just confirmed a minute ago, that we aren't allowed to raise revenue.
No, that's their articles, and I don't really want to get into that tonight,
Yep.
because
I'll
it's
wait.
totally separate. And I'll introduce that in like a regular meeting.
Yeah.
So
And secondly, did the school get COVID money?
I have no idea,
So we don't get access to their budget,
No.
they just ask us
no,
for money?
They don't
Well,
ask
yes.
us, they tell us.
Right.
Yeah, they tell us.
I mean,
The
there's that,
state tells us.
Hmm.
So
yeah,
yeah, I hear you, I'm
at
just
town,
saying
at
that,
town meeting, the town, well, not anymore.
right.
Yeah,
At,
right.
at
anymore.
town meeting, historically, we voted on the school budget.
right,
That school budget went to the state
Does their thing.
does their thing,
Right.
and then they tell us how much we need to raise in taxes to pay for it.
Yeah,
so
So-
how do we hold them to account? What are the avenues that
There's,
people can hold them to account?
so there is a school board meeting that we are,
Votes the budget.
that we are able to attend it. I don't remember when it was last year, but,
A
that goes on-
a supervisory union meeting.
well, it's no, it's a school district.
that's
It's
the voters.
Right. Yes.
The voters.
And that's for all of Wyndham, how?
It's
yes.
Brattleboro, Putney, Dummerston,
Guilford.
Guilford.
Yeah,
Not Bellas Falls?
No,
No.
Bellas Falls is,
It's
they're
Wyndham
all,
Southeast.
right.
Okay. So that's where we hold them to account.
Yes.
Budgets and look at that.
Yes.
yes, yeah.
Last year, I want to say it was $52 million.
Yeah.
Right, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, our portion was like 4 point something million.
Yeah, it's huge.
Which is
Yeah.
more than
Right.
everything else.
Yes.
And just as an aside, I think that more voter participation from Putney on school issues would be very helpful, because I don't think our representation was all that high last year.
Right.
And we don't have to have kids in school anymore to go represent, I mean, I'm feeling like,
You're a voter of the, you
Voter
never
side,
did,
yes.
you never had to have
okay,
kids in the school. You just have to be a voter of the town.
okay.
So page 2, top of the page, fire department grants. 300,000. And I'll check on that.
Okay.
And, page 3. Where do I have that? Oh, so miscellaneous grant programs, so this is for the municipal planning grant for the town plan, update.
Where are you? Oh,
Is
okay,
this
yeah,
PIP?
Yeah,
that we just got.
yes,
And we have a match, what's the match of it?
it was 25%, I think I put it in the expenditures.
Okay,
Sorry, where was that? That was
It's
on
halfway down on Route.
page 3.
Page 3.
On Route 3.
On Route 3.
So, does that grant, does the volume of that grant and or the two grants subject us to a single audit? Do you know?
We might anyway because of the, ARPA funds,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
that's probably true.
Yeah. So. If you notice too, in the next line down is the ARPA funds. So that's the revenue, right? Plus there must be a couple other ARPA grants that we ended up with, and it all goes in this line.
So we're not showing it, that's actual for 22 though, we're not
Right.
showing any for 23?
No,
So how do we get to 720? Because that's
It's
double.
the next year
Right.
payment rate.
so I'll look at that. But here's to your question, Josh, about putting grant money
Oh.
into the budget.
Because ARPA, yeah.
Right,
there you
because
go.
we didn't expect this money.
Right.
Right.
So what it does, it increases our revenue stream, but,
It doesn't change the amount that
We
needs
can
to
only
be
use it
raised
for
from
what they say we
taxes.
can use it
Right.
for.
right.
We don't get to
So,
Okay.
increase that.
Yeah, so,
But if we use it for the water or septic systems, it might actually have an effect in the future.
In the long
if we use it.
term.
Right, exactly, right?
Well, if we use it wisely, regardless of where we use it, we hope it will have a
Right.
positive effect on taxes in the future.
yeah,
yeah.
You know, that doesn't mean taxes are gonna go down in the future,
No,
it just
but-
means they may not go up
Right,
as much.
exactly,
Yeah.
right.
so at the end of this year, the 22, when we get audited, we're gonna show like a big surplus, because we get this big chunk of money from ARPA. You know, so it's
Yeah,
like,
which is
yeah,
fine, I mean, that's.
Well, we have an explanation for it. So.
well,
Exactly.
and that's the thing, when, as long as you can justify it,
Right,
Yeah,
then we're okay.
right. Okay.
So let's see.
so I just wanna go back for a moment, back to Emily's question about sources of revenue. I mean, our biggest single source of revenue is monies collected from taxpayers.
Yeah.
But then, as we were just looking at, you know, we have a bunch of grant money coming in, we have a trickle of various, you know, we have some investments that pay certain amounts, et cetera, et cetera. Where those aren't really our investments, but
Right.
those are
That's the thing.
investments that are
They're
set
not
aside.
So what do you
And
oversee?
comprehensive annual
So,
financial report, all those investments, the CAFR,
Yeah. Sorry, say that again?
the comprehensive annual financial report that comes out from the state. I don't know whether you have a mini one here.
We do, I mean, we have records of it, we have an audit.
Yes,
Is essentially what it is, which tells, which reviews and then highlights everything in and everything out and all our
Yeah.
standing balances.
Well, you were mentioning investments.
well,
Yes.
if somebody donated money to a fund to say, take care of cemetery or something, it isn't the town's fund, and that can make a small amount of interest. And the
Only
money can be
interest?
used for whatever it was.
Okay, so it only can
It's
be a
not
very
us.
minimally interest-bearing account, like,
Not in that case that David was talking, what we have what's called a sweep account. So any extra money we have sits in an account that bears the maximum legal amount that it can, basically, which is like 1.2% or something. It's really,
Right.
it's
So-
pretty limited.
Are we statutorily prohibited from doing things
Yes.
like micro business loans to
Are-
get the
are-
pizza place up or something?
Oh, no, well, no, we wouldn't in a situation like that, but we could only charge an interest rate of whatever that limit is, because otherwise it's arbitrary, so we would be earning money illegally in one
Yeah.
place.
Right.
So, but no, we can do that. I mean, for example, with ARPA funds, with money that we have coming in from the feds, we could in theory do something to support small businesses, maybe. You know,
Maybe.
there are all sorts of limitations on it, but we could in theory say, we want to take, you know, $100,000 and create micro loans for people. At which we can only charge the maximum amount, which I think when it's at its highest is only like 2%.
Mhm.
But it's variable depending on Federal Reserve, I believe. It governs what we're allowed to earn from.
Thank you.
Page 4. At the top of the page, select board. So I just found out today that I don't have the authority, nor do the select board have the authority to increase
To give
select board
ourselves a raise.
stipends. So it has to be done from the floor,
I mean,
yes. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to take all that money away from you people.
Well, do you need a town warning thing? Town warning thing? Are you allowed to ask somebody to put an article on the town warning?
it wouldn't be an article. would
Yeah,
it?
you can just,
Do it from the
from the floor, and you can,
alternative business?
yes.
So we just need to,
So the other thing too is, I anticipated, you know, not only 3, but possibly 5.
okay.
Right.
So I will put that back down to, because I would have to add a stipend for 2 more. if
Right.
that
Well,
happens.
if it were raised from, yes, so you should have that in there. probably.
Yes,
Yeah,
the 5.
exactly, for
Yes.
5 people.
If you didn't budget for it and somebody did raise it from the floor, where would it come from?
It gets added,
Yes,
so then the vote.
At
it
the
wouldn't
town,
be-
oh, gotcha.
Exactly,
All right.
at town
Gotcha.
meeting, the
Yeah.
total budget is altered by that.
So why do you want 5 people?
So you can
Can't
budget
get more
anything you want, you just can't actually.
I think we all feel that,
Is that what
but
you're saying, Karen?
apparently there are people out there.
Excuse
You can budget
there's a,
whatever you want. you
but
just
there's a
can't
potential
actually
petition
make
for
the
five,
change in
5
payment,
members.
like people have to make
So
that.
we're just
So it probably
anticipating
makes
that it
sense to
might
budget
pass.
it, which is what,
Yes.
7,500?
yeah, 7,500, I just figured out. So, yeah, we'll just see how that.
Right, so you have to have 75 in there.
Yes, yes, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah,
So moving down, you notice that the salary office assistant, I lowered that
mhm.
based on changes. The bookkeeper increased based on providing a full-time job for one of our staff members.
Okay.
Contracted services increased by 7,000 because I put 10,000 in there for the HR consultant,
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
so. And then I reduced a couple other ones, but, so that was a big,
Computer, and then computer IT support, why did computer IT support go down?
because the company I was looking at, that's what they wanted, $9,500. And then when I got the quotes, we ended up going with our Vermont Digital, and he was a lot lower, and he knows us, he's been doing our work for us, and now we're protected, he comes down quarterly.
So, and so the 5,000 is projected based on what it's at, on the actual, essentially.
Contract, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So while we're on the energy conservation, we do have that, query.
We do have that.
Yeah, this is a fund that, that we didn't actually know existed. That we did authorize spending $500 out of, for this fiscal year. But we also found out that we could move that money, unspent money, into a different fund, right?
Mhm.
Which we already have, a reserve, there's already a reserve fund that could be
Correct.
calculated.
With money in it,
Conservation
yes.
reserve.
Yeah,
Yes,
Is that John?
yeah, it's closing time.
Right, so if that's something we would have to think about, I mean, if we're
Well,
consider adding that, I don't know whether that would want to be.
I think it should be subcontracted. And I think it requires more conversation because, and I don't know if we want to dive into this right now or
No,
not.
I don't think we do.
All right,
No, but it is a discussion we should,
Because it will need to be budgeted for if we want to do it. The
well,
other-
not only budgeted, but I gotta have the room in the office, I gotta get another computer.
Depends on, yeah, I mean, it depends on the nature of the job. No,
Right.
I think you're right, if it were for all practical purposes, subcontract, then you wouldn't have to have all that. I mean, if you were paying, like, for example, the rec week, you know,
Right,
we pay people, but we don't supply them office or anything else.
yeah, but we
so-
only pay them 75.
No, I know, but there's, I don't think that.
I'm not
my opinion
against
is
it.
that would not
possible,
necessitate
yeah.
somebody having an office.
it's possible that that position, whatever it is, subcontractor or otherwise, could, work from
Remotely.
remotely.
Right.
Yeah.
There's,
Yeah, so Rockingham has an energy coordinator. That person's not paid, and I think,
mhm.
and I would suggest and recommend that the energy committee reach out to that person.
that's a good idea.
Robin, did you hear that?
Yes, I did, and have already directly and indirectly had conversations with Karen and haven't, as you know, we haven't had a chance to really discuss this in an open meeting, energy committee meeting, but I think that that's the direction we should go, speaking personally. And we'll push for that at our meeting next Thursday.
Okay, yeah, so I don't know who's creating the agenda, but just put that on the list for whoever's creating the agenda.
Yeah, I'll send him an email.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Can I go back to the revenue sources for a second?
Yeah.
There's a town, Bethel.
Yeah.
Bethel has what's called Bethel University. Has anybody heard of it? Well, they started out for a week that they had town people contributing different courses that people could take. And then it grew to a month every year. And then it grew to being people coming from all over the place and giving courses, and then people actually paying for it. It just drew from the value of what there was in the town. And I just throwing that out there so it will sit somewhere, see somewhere. It's been a very big success. I don't know what's happened during COVID.
And the income generated.
Well, I think-
Goes to the town.
I think it's a separate entity because,
And it makes
but if
perhaps.
it doesn't mean that we'd have to do it that way if we did it.
Right, just an alternate income
Yep.
model. Yeah.
Yep, we're looking at it. Yeah. What's it called, Bethel?
Bethel University. And they did things like pop-up tent things too, they just, I'll try to see if I can, I don't know, if it's out there. See if I can find it, I don't remember.
So page 5.
Yeah.
Are you all set?
Yes.
treasurer's salary, but you don't have somebody in that position, but that's what.
I
you're
don't.
proposing.
And
Yeah,
I may not use that line item, but
yeah,
it's undecided
but
at
it's
this
a.
point.
Yeah,
Yes.
makes sense.
So health insurance is up $26,675.
Are we on another page now?
Oh,
Page
sorry.
Page good, halfway down.
And that health insurance, that's for, town hall employees?
Yes, so
Okay,
in
so,
here too, because looking for an assistant. So I don't know if it'll be like a single, double,
Full-time,
or a
part-time,
family.
Yeah, yeah.
It's definitely gonna be a full-time
Full-time,
position.
yeah.
but you don't know the health insurance piece.
I went with the family plan just to be
Mhm.
safe.
Yeah,
Treasurer, so.
Yeah.
And then we did add a single by creating the full-time position.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So that's the increase on that.
We could probably change, just because I noticed it, that a couple line items down from there, workman's compensation. Could be workers' compensation.
Thank you.
Good catch.
Yeah, I saw that too, I was gonna say anything.
Right, I can make that. That's an easy one. So the listers on top of page 7, salary increase based on having a head lister at a higher rate, and then the other two.
When you say full-time, you don't mean full-time salary, do you? I mean, you don't
Oh,
really mean
yeah,
that. You mean that there's gonna be 3 listers,
3 listers.
three actual people who show up at
Right.
And,
practice.
and this was always budgeted this way even before Susan came. We had budgeted for 3.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Yes. But I think we're gonna structure it differently. And Jordy's looking at something like within 3 years. We talked about the potential assessor too,
Mhm.
because a lot of towns are going that way,
Yeah,
but the listers are elected, and the only way you can change, I don't think you can change it, because it's a state mandate, right?
you can, there are 3 ways you can change it, but I think it has to go before the voters.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have 3 listers and an assessor, you can have no listers and an assessor. There was one other structure,
Just 3 listers.
3 listers,
Right.
that's right, the way we have it now.
Yeah.
But all 3 of those, well, no, not all 3, the other 2 have to go before the voters.
Right, and I think in March, there's 2 open seats for listers. And I'm not quite sure who's gonna petition.
In March, there's gonna be 2 open seats?
Well, there's Susan's seat, right?
Right,
And
Yeah.
then there's,
somebody else.
Doug is
Doug is
up.
up.
But that is up.
No,
No,
Jordy's
Jordy's
up.
up,
Jordy's up.
yeah.
Jordy and Susan. So,
Travel and meeting includes VALA? I don't know what that is.
Bala. So that's for the listers.
That's
It's,
the
Vermont.
Vermont Assessors and Listers Association.
yes,
We have our very own lobbying group.
yes, you do. Let's see. So again, town clerk salary up a little bit, and
But
then
assistant salary went down.
down
because it
because
shifted
I
over.
shifted it over.
What's the contracted services for? What's that?
Contracted services. Oh, that's NEMRIC,
I got it, okay.
COTS,
Contact.
and the postage machine. I try to capture everything, but not always. So I expect that you will digest this and come back to me with questions.
Well, the other assets.
I'm gonna massage it a little bit, but at least
How can
you'll-
we cut this by 50%?
Yeah.
if you,
Just delete half the lines and then we're all set.
so here's the thing, and this is a question for the board. No, I'm gonna be serious right now. If you tell me you have to cut this by 10%,
Yeah,
then I will go in here and trim it.
Here you go.
It can be done. This is the worst case scenario right now.
Yeah,
okay.
I think you took my joke personally.
No, but I was gonna make that statement anyway, because this is the first year that I'm without words too.
Why is sheriff's department up so much?
What page are you on? Are you skipping
Sorry,
around?
I couldn't wait.
What page are you
I'm
on?
on page 9.
Can you go back?
Page 8, I'm on page 8,
Can you stay on page 8 for just a minute?
stay on the same page.
So, under town hall maintenance,
Building improvements.
Town hall maintenance,
So-
yeah,
what I've added in here, and this is where we can trim.
Custodial service.
So custodial services for recycling and garbage pickup is 3,000, because I can't seem to get. Joe's been picking up our trash and bringing it down to the town garage, but it's been very difficult
Just for
because of how.
recycling and trash is
Yes.
$3,000. isn't it?
Yes,
I pay $156 a month at my shop.
yeah,
Yeah, and you produce a lot more trash probably than we do.
I know, and we don't hardly have any trash, and I may be taking this out because I think that's the way to.
I fill a recycling dumpster, 3-yard dumpster a week, but the trash fills, I know, they're a quarter full.
Yeah.
So,
Repairs and maintenance, I boosted that by 2,500.
Speaking of, what happened with that circuit downstairs?
Josh King's guys came in, that's working over there now. And, the pump too,
mhm.
So they were somehow tied together and not working?
yeah,
So they lost power to the circuit, and we got the pump running with an extension cord,
right.
but it didn't, the float switch wasn't reliable, I had to work it a few times.
Yeah, Tom came in and he said, just, you're fine. I'm like,
what kind of
okay.
pump, a sump pump?
Was that?
What kind of pump? A
A
sump,
sump
a sump
in the
pump? A
basement,
pump?
Yeah,
During all that rain, there's a
That's-
well
Yeah,
with a sump in it
I've,
to try to get.
so building improvements, I put $10,000 in there, get front doors redone.
okay,
But again, I haven't introduced the capital improvement plan to the select board yet.
Okay.
So these might be like that $10,000
could be part of that instead.
could be part of that, and then we can play around with the numbers a little more.
I've had some people mention the steps, is that part of the capital fund?
No, the steps, Paul Demas has the stones, he's just gotta do it.
Okay,
He has the material.
Yeah, it's all down at the town garage.
But that's
sure this has
just
been
the bottom
discussed.
steps, that's not all the ones that are falling apart, right? Or is he gonna work on
That
it?
wasn't my understanding. I thought it
It's
was
all the
whole
front,
thing.
the whole front
It is.
stairs.
Oh, I thought it was the bottom part.
No, it's the whole front staircase. Everything that's crumbled in the front is gonna be taken care of. But we still have problems up there.
Yes,
I figured that was a discussion. but-
So the sheriff's department, yes, $15,000 increase.
That's what they're proposing, or,
No, that's for 2,000 hours a year. And let me see if I can locate.
but that's based on a number they gave you. Or,
Yes.
or are you just projecting?
I did
No,
see
that's a
something
number.
maybe in the paper about the sheriff's, I think it was the sheriff's, services having to increase.
750 per hour.
All right, so here's the question, I've asked this every year, for the last couple of years. So $97,000 is 2,000 hours per year at $48.50 per hour. Now, if the town wanted to, we can have less than 2,000 hours, but it would be $60.
Rate per hour. That's
Right. So I did the analysis and the math on 1,000 hours a year times 60, it'd be $60,000.
Right.
It's kind of
For 37, yeah, for 37, we're getting
So
close to coverage.
we share
Right,
services with Westminster.
right.
I just saw the sheriff's report for this past month and we were down, they owe us 30 hours for the month,
For this whole month,
for last month.
for last month.
So that adds up year after, month after month. And we've already gotten 2 refunds because we didn't get,
The service that
Mhm.
we contracted for.
right. The question is, what type of policing does the community require?
That doesn't sound like something that we necessarily should be deciding here,
No,
Well, not right now.
no, it's a question. The other
So-
thing too, I spoke to Lieutenant French with the state police. And I asked him, I said, do you have any contracts with municipalities and are you taking on any municipalities? They are not. So the contracts they have now are in place, they're grandfathered in. They're not extended any contracts, they're understaffed. But the biggest revenue for any department, whether it's sheriff's department or state police, is grant money. It's state grant money, it's doing traffic control, DUI checks, because all that money is paid by grant.
Close in.
Yeah. So,
You finished? I didn't want to interrupt. I was hanging on every word.
yeah,
You're gonna have this meeting with the state police.
Yes.
Would that be a good time to
And with
also
the
consider, what we need more? And the only other thing I want to bring up here is I was watching a Bellows Falls meeting, budgeting meeting some years back. And they had a new chief of police, so you can kind of, what was that, 4 or 5, I don't know. They had a new chief of
Yeah,
police there.
yeah.
And they were complaining because there wasn't enough ticket revenue. And the guy had said, well, I just came on the job and I wanted to kind of get to know people before I started ticketing them. And so that came across to the people, and to me certainly, that there was sort of a quota going on with the police. And it's interesting that you didn't mention ticket revenue coming back to Putney at all, because they certainly were counting on it.
It's a trickle. It's much different with an independent department,
Mhm.
because that money then comes directly to them. For us, for the Wyndham County Sheriffs, it goes, correct me if I'm wrong, Karen, my understanding is it goes to the state and then the state redistributes it. And it's
Yeah.
not a big source of revenue for us. If you have your own department, then you could write tickets and collect money from it.
right.
Yeah, I'm not advocating for that,
No,
I do
no,
like speed limits, but I'm not.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's always been a surprisingly small source of revenue for us.
It's very
It does-
small.
And it does produce a little bit, but it's very small, and
And it went way down with COVID.
Yes.
So then,
Yeah.
way down. with COVID.
Yeah.
What was it? Was
part of it was people weren't driving, and part of
I
it
think
was
they'd stop.
stopping a lot of people.
they stopped stopping it.
So in 2021, we had in the budget for revenue for local ordinance fines, $8,500. The actual was $5,997.85. I reduced the budget in 22 to 5,000, and I level funded it in 2023.
Okay, where is this revenue?
It's on page 2.
Oh, page 2. Go back to it, okay.
Yeah.
That's all the revenue, I got you.
So we're almost halfway through the year, and we've collected $2,362. So,
The other thing about that is we can request that the sheriff's department spends a lot more time doing that particular work, and we tend not to.
Right,
We want them to have a presence on the roads,
right.
so that, because that helps slow people down. Apparently, the data does not show that it helps slow down crime for some
Right.
Yeah,
odd
so,
reason, but
yeah,
it does slow down traffic to a certain degree. But we're not asking them to write much tickets, which we
could we ask them to come to that proposed meeting with the state troopers,
it was already gonna be a meeting with.
Right.
the
With everybody,
troopers
okay.
and with the township.
and would it be appropriate for them to help organize neighborhood watches or meetings about that?
We're gonna talk about stuff like that.
Yeah, okay.
It would certainly be appropriate for them to tell us what their perspective on it is.
Right.
I don't know whether.
And for us to tell anybody in town to say what
If you're
kind of coverage they would
Right.
like to have, what kind of police coverage they would like to have.
Yeah.
That's the meeting.
But as we can see, sort of going up 15 grand this year.
Right.
And
It's a lot of
is
money.
is this an increase of hours or is this the same amount of hours?
No,
Same
it's the hourly rate.
Just $7.50 an hour more. Right?
Times 2,000 hours.
But that 2,000 hours is ours because it's accountable. It's not split with Westminster. They contract.
They get
number of hours that they
Right.
own, correct?
Right.
Even though they're officers, they just want to make sure.
Yeah.
And that's who we get the rebate from.
Right.
They not down where they are.
And as far as contracting out is concerned, I assume like Brattleboro doesn't have any kind of contracts with any other towns.
No, like a mutual aid type
Okay,
I mean,
Yeah.
the problem is just personnel.
staffing.
yeah,
Right.
Nobody can meet
Right.
their personnel requirements.
yeah, no, they're short staffed as well. I was just curious whether they provided that service for any other towns.
And this is just off to the side, but I have found out that insurance companies are really struggling right now because none of the adjusters will go out and adjust for accidents. I had 2 cars come into my business this week who the cars weren't anywhere near totaled and the insurance company just totaled them over the phone and had them hauled to their inspection center because
Just because they couldn't have
come out and do an audit.
Huh?
And they go in the queue, months from now, they'll be assessed on each person, and then they'll deal with the car. And so there's a lack of help everywhere.
Everywhere.
So the fire department, we kind of went over when Tom's here,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
those for a couple pages.
On page 11 at the top, you see the grant for 375,000.
All right. And that's the expense line.
Right, for the radios.
Curious, and maybe I'm just not seeing it, but I don't remember seeing it. I'm just wondering why we have a chief's salary listed and broken out and not a superintendent's salary broken out. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, because Brian, it's split, general and winter.
Okay, so.
Yeah. Although, let's look at something, hold on a minute. Yeah, I think that's the way we did his too. Well, this is all in general.
It's embedded in there.
Yes, yep,
Yeah, no, I just wondered. That's-
yeah, this is all in general, yeah. Well, and we could create it and bring it out. I mean, his salary,
Just
Yeah.
as a single line item, so that I
right,
know what it is. That would probably be helpful. So I guess there's a small decrease on the wind and solid waste.
yes.
That
Yep,
I mean,
the
it's-
assessment,
Yeah,
yeah, it's been going down.
is there a
You can tell.
reason for that?
They give us the number, so it's based on their budget and then population.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it's revenue related. if they're revenue.
If their revenue is going up, then you get,
Exactly.
There's that
And it's,
side,
I think
okay.
it's pretty. Statutory, I can't remember how it works, but he
It's a-
usually comes and talks to us, but.
it's a district we're in, right? It's like a,
We're in-
Solid waste management.
yeah.
Districts?
Yes,
so it's a number of towns?
Yes.
yeah.
They have like a meeting every year too. Dan, what's Dan's last name?
To me,
Yes.
You didn't list the social services because of everything we talked about earlier.
Right. Pool labor, I bumped up a little bit. Only because it looks kind of hot right now and they still have June.
and they still have June, what do you mean?
When we open the pool, May, June,
Oh, I see what you're saying,
Yeah.
yeah,
so,
we didn't say, we didn't pay those this
Because
year,
we-
right?
Because we
Yeah,
opened
sure,
late.
Because we didn't open.
right, right.
Speaking of the pool, since the beavers are so active, it's getting really, really hard to access the woods because it's all boggy. I mean, and I wondered if we might want to think about in the future, making a boardwalk, a raised boardwalk to get to the trails.
So there's a nonprofit that owns that forest now called Forest for One,
Even through the field,
that
Yep.
field too, and they are actually thinking about that very thing.
yeah, I see
Um,
them a lot up there.
So, I believe I shouldn't speak for them, but I believe they're trying to contract with, the Vermont Youth Corps, to create a boardwalk. But it might not be for a couple of years because they are booked out.
Yeah,
But-
they're doing really nice work.
Yeah,
Got a really nice bench up on the overlook and they're replacing the signs.
and they can always use volunteers. Just put that out there.
Is that what,
Well, what I've been talking to them about is, since they don't want any motorized things, in the winter, it's really beneficial to have actually a snowmobile pass over all of those, because, it makes it walkable, makes it passable. And
They've
so-
been talking about using, I think they were thinking about maybe grooming it once or twice. But
I wonder
we
if-
should talk to them about motorized. They have very specific reasons why they don't want motorized vehicles.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because they want more hunting. I mean, anyway, that's a whole different thing that doesn't go with budgeting so much, but
No.
it's interesting.
But yeah, the field is owned by Forest for One as well.
Okay.
All right, anything else, Karen? We're getting there.
well,
Talk to Emily, she can, so.
Yeah.
Animal control, animal control, is that just for items, not for the, oh, no, we do have, service here too, okay.
This does not include, there's under Wyndham County Sheriff's, there's an officer.
Yeah,
right, that's
so,
Ashley,
I
the
think
new.
so that must be somewhere else, but is that under,
Wyndham County Community, yes, that's.
Yeah, that's back
in the
here, public.
sheriff's.
in the sheriff's budget, okay.
Yeah.
If we've had occasion to need the animal control officer?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, she's been working some cases and
Who is it, remind me?
Ashley Pinger. And a couple other towns are joining too.
Good, so that
Yes. So,
Does that
should
mean
decrease our,
yeah,
the price will go down?
yeah, and then Brattleboro, I heard Kathy Barrows is gonna be retiring and
so they may contract also.
May, but I don't
I
know.
would think that would take close to a full-time.
I was
person,
gonna
yeah.
say
I
that's,
think Ashley will be full-time.
Right, I would think,
Yeah.
I think Brattleboro would need a full-time person just for themselves.
Right.
yeah,
All right,
So a little more work.
good, thank you.
Um,
Like you done a lot of this.
Again, and I can trim, I'm gonna massage it a little bit anyway. The last piece in your packet is this really
Yeah.
big piece, 11 by 17. So this is the fund balance work paper from the audit.
last year's audit.
Yes, for 21. Through June 30, 2021. So I guess what you really need to pay attention to is net change, gain, loss.
Mhm.
So general fund,
Where are you? Sorry,
note 1, net change.
okay,
$51,427 is surplus.
Good.
So we started in the red.
We did good.
Yeah, so we did well.
The COVID year, we were worried that you budgeted so close last year.
Yeah, I
too.
think the
Really
town should
close.
be proud that when we played.
I think we should be thanking you too.
So, and then the highway fund that
Sure.
ended with a surplus of $56,430.
So can you just explain to me how we had a net change of, if we started in the red,
Because we had this school payment that,
right, no, but then we had a net change of 51, but our ending fund balance was 245, 240.
because that's over the years, so that's a total with all,
Accumulated
years,
over a long time.
yes.
Okay,
yes,
so it's not, yeah.
it's not,
Right.
that would mean it's not a real number.
right. And the other thing too is we have to be careful, what I just learned from the auditor is just because there's an ending fund balance.
Doesn't mean we have that money.
Right, because
That's
it
what
could be
you-
wrapped up in assets,
Yeah,
so you gotta take that out too.
That was like the water and septic department,
Yes.
looking at
Yeah,
the surplus and that, the majority of that
Right. yeah,
isn't money, it's equity.
it's equity, yeah,
Right,
because last year I was saying, yeah, we got 3 million in the fund balance, but that was not true.
Right.
nice fantasy. that.
Yeah.
First thought I had was, can we transfer that over here? We could use that over here.
Yeah, so there it is. Overall, Sam said too, and I think I might have stated this in a different meeting, but highway department, the water sewer are all in good shape. And then the general fund is getting better because we have transferred that sidewalk money.
Yeah.
And it is in the capital reserve, Josh. You asked if it was in the general fund just floating there.
Right,
It is not. It's in the actual capital reserve, which is a more secure place because only the select board can
Can decide
decide
what
how
to
to
do with
spend
that.
it.
right.
Although you never want to leave money like that just in a general
Just
fund because it can get spent.
Right.
So
Remind me how much was left over of the surplus from the sidewalk, I forgot.
it was close to 98,000
Got it.
and then it was 118 maybe. We put 20 into the sidewalk maintenance and then
Right.
like 98
Right.
went into the general fund. So.
All right.
So there's a lot of numbers for you. Yeah.
For, any other questions, comments, anything else?
Are we doing more extra meetings in the near future for this particular thing? Or are we
Look at
done?
this beautiful calendar, huh?
Oh,
All the committees are on here.
nice.
Yeah, so pay attention. So we have a regular meeting on the 15th.
Yeah.
The 22nd is gonna be questionable for me right now. Depending on,
Nice, oh, on your husband.
yeah, so my husband goes in for surgery on the 20th. So
Well, if we don't
I think.
need to, then
Right.
let's, no.
Right. Because I might be able to do, depending on next week, I might slide something in, but we have the 29th
Is
too.
that would be a special meeting, not a regular meeting?
The 22nd would be a special.
Special
Yes.
meeting, 'cause the
29th would be a
Yeah.
regular schedule.
18th is a
We
regular.
could do the 5th if we needed an extra one, you know.
And what,
18th is regular. 15th.
I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know why 18 is in my head, I'm sorry. Just
Yeah,
trying to keep you on your
15th
toes.
15th and 29th are regular meetings.
Okay, and, I mean, I'm sure I'm great those days. What is the next, is this all, we've been presented with everything now, or, okay, so, what will be the next step?
Budgetarily,
Yeah,
I'm gonna look at the grants
okay,
and then, I'm gonna revisit the water and sewer. See if I can reduce a little bit there.
okay,
And then, other than that, once I feel comfortable, I'll present all of them at once. And, we'll go from there.
no, for the most part, our work is done.
Yes.
As Karen said, we want to tell her to reduce it, yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Reduce it by
Right.
X amount. Which, you know, it is crazy.
Absolutely.
And I love to say you have to reduce it by X amount. But I don't think that's particularly realistic. I think that, you know, what we have to decide, that I think the single thing is, well, we have to think about health insurance, mostly related to employees. We have to think about health insurance, and we have to think about COLA.
right,
You know, are we 6% is a huge number. I don't think I can't remember us ever having done 6% before.
3 is the highest.
That doesn't make me think we shouldn't do that necessarily, but it does make me think we should give it serious consideration. Because it's a big number.
it's a big number, it is, yeah.
Like I said, I'll present a 3%.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then we can look
That'd be
at it.
helpful. to see what
Okay,
the
yeah,
difference
we'll
is.
see what
I
we're
mean-
really saving,
That's the thing, is when you look at the big picture,
Right.
yeah,
it's never as much as, you know, any single item just doesn't make that much. of a
right, you have to
difference.
strike a lot of them in order to make a difference.
But taking the time to look at all of the little things and then be really,
A little bit here, a little bit there.
and that makes a huge difference.
Yes.
Because you can say 3% here and 5% there and 8% here and
Yeah.
10% there. And you do that in 25 places, that makes a difference. And you did
$100,000
that
makes
last
a
year.
difference,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
You did that
Yes.
last year, and
Yes.
it really made, and I understand that's why this year is even harder, but there's other increases too that weren't because you budgeted so close last year.
Right.
Not looking at it all is just as bad as thinking that it's okay, because it's just a little bit, it's just a little bit. And keep
Right.
doing that every year, and then, you know,
But in the
Try to hold
last
the water
3
back while
years,
you can.
I've pretty much level funded the budgets.
great.
And Brian's
now-
went down.
And now we've got some backlash from that.
Right.
That's part of what we're saying, but
Right.
level funding the budget
Right.
isn't the increase in healthcare. It's
right,
the
Right.
increase in-
or the.
It's not
that's not-
inflation, it's
yeah,
not that,
Yeah.
so those weren't bad things to do.
Right.
No, I mean, I think the one other fairly big ticket item we have is that 145 going to the capital reserve.
Great.
Whether we want to stick with that
Maybe,
number.
yeah,
Great.
maybe that's a place to
I-
shake.
Well,
I wouldn't
But I don't
argue
know that
against,
right.
I wouldn't argue against putting a chunk of money.
But
in
we
there,
are,
maybe-
if we reduce it, we are risking not
not
being
having
able-
money, to-
not,
right.
not having it be
replace.
effective, basically.
Right, exactly. And so
Right.
timing is a huge part of that too.
Right.
Yes.
The money's gonna get
And
spent
this,
anyway.
this year is important, yeah.
Yeah, and there might be one year where he won't buy a truck, and that's gonna make up,
Yeah,
you know, some ground too.
When were you going to bring in the revenue sources, just during next other meetings?
Yes, and
You're
that's,
also,
that's the
I
other
mean,
piece.
this material is all available to you, so revenue sources is, it's
Yeah.
all listed here, so if you want copies of this budget, you're welcome to.
I can walk away today with it, or I have to look it up online.
Well, you can walk away with it, I mean, it's public meeting, I
I
can
don't
give you these
wanna,
copies, I have the percentage one, so I can give you
Yeah,
And this is just the first draft of this that we're
Yes,
continuing
yes.
to work on.
Yeah,
It
So,
has to go through the voters anyway.
well, we're gonna work on it more before it
Yep,
ever
right.
goes. But yeah,
And it's only useful in brainstorming at this point, I'm just looking to know what
Okay,
we're working
just wanted you to know that,
Yeah.
so that you can look at it and think this is a
so that may or may not, if you have questions, you can.
Okay.
But that has everything that's just, well, there's other stuff here too, but this. That has pretty much everything.
and once we get comfortable with the budget, the four of us, we usually would like to have a public informational meeting. And, you know, I know, Josh, it's, you know, but I think we need to hear from
I mean,
the community, the
unfortunately,
voters.
I agree, the reality is
Yeah,
we don't, I mean,
Right.
this is a public informational meeting,
Right.
and we've
I-
got one
yeah.
person online and one person. Thank you for coming, Robin and Mary, thank you for coming.
I think what we can do though is we have committees, we can talk to people and get the word out there,
Yeah,
but,
We can go from porch forum, places like that.
I don't do that, no,
Well, they don't, I'm not on there, but.
yeah, I don't.
Well, you could, need to get it out, or email, don't you have an email list of everybody?
Nope,
Can you get one?
no,
Well, I mean, that would be really helpful, if everybody in the town could get a send out of your notices. It shouldn't be that hard, in town meeting, we just get emails and then it's an entry thing.
It's complicated because
Yeah.
it's an equity question.
Equity question.
Yeah, if we're emailing and not posting, the only
Right,
right.
sort of legitimate way we can actually get everybody is to do a mailing.
US now.
Right.
And then we get all the voters. Email is preferential to those people who have internet service and email.
Yeah.
account.
But you're not mailing out notices of the meeting, you're posting them at the post office.
post office, the website,
Yeah, so
Right,
what you can
public
do is you can
places.
say, if you additionally would like to get it in your email,
How much is how much would be, how much is a post of all
It's expensive.
townwide
It's like
postal?
$1,500.
yeah,
No, it was
too
a
expensive
postcard,
to
not
mail.
a town report.
But
Still
everybody
not
gets texts
We
too.
can, well, with the town report, we can send it to them. No,
I don't
it's
have
just,
the
it's
staff to
complicated.
do all that,
Yeah,
Emily.
Well, I think, we do need to connect better.
Right,
And I do think, well, that's a really low hanging fruit. It would take somebody, what, 20 hours? I don't know, how many hours? A certain amount of hours just to go through and get everybody's either text or the other, and then
Right, we
then
don't
you can do
have-
these and send
We
out.
don't have
but
the
an extra
resources
20
to,
hours
yeah.
is an extra 20 hours.
and we don't have a means to text people,
Sure you do, everybody has a phone.
Right, but
Yeah, how would
somebody
we
here
do
has
that?
to do the work.
right,
Well, when you write up your little note, anyway, this is a late thing, but I think this is worth pursuing so that we can get the involvement, people can get it, because I know it would get my eye better, it was in my inbox or in my text, and I think it's feasible because I see a lot of other organizations doing it. So I don't know. that's-
I think it's a reason, I think it's a reasonable suggestion. There are, I've heard from numerous people, no matter how we rearrange the website, they can't find agendas, they can't find
Oh,
stuff.
yeah,
So there's definitely a need to reach the public more. But I also know that we are short-staffed right now, so it's a good thing, it's a good thing for us to discuss for the future. It may not necessarily happen
In the next
in the
year.
next year,
Well,
yeah.
you know, we could, okay, I don't wanna take up our time, but I think it's doable, more doable than we think. And I think we could get a pretty reasonable, we're not gonna be $48 an hour for somebody to entry. We get it pretty reasonably, so that would be maybe $400 or $400 for the whole budget, or $500 for everybody to be more involved is not that much. Anyway, just thoughts.
Yeah. All right, anything else?
I don't have anything.
I'm just gonna take 10 seconds to comment on well, maybe a little more than 10 seconds, but not much more. The idea of a petition for a 5-person board. I have been told that there is a petition going around to have a 5-person board, and I guess sort of one of the main things I want to say about that is if people are signing that petition, which I'm in favor of more people, more voices in the room, but I think that we already have a tremendous lack of volunteers on all our different committees. And if people are signing that petition, they should at the same time be thinking, all right, well, who's going to step up and do this? So if you're thinking about a petition like that, either having it or signing it, you should be thinking, okay, well, if I'm voting for this, or if I'm asking for us to consider this, where are those people going to come from? Because we have a tremendously hard time filling slots. And I think it would be an unreasonable burden. You know, we're going to have at least, if we were to have a 5-person board, we would have a minimum of 3 open slots on this select board. Trying to find 3 people to fill slots on this board is a task, trust me. And leaving that in the hands of the select board to appoint people, I think is a questionable burden. So I think that I love the idea of more voices. If you want to have a voice in town governments, come to select board meetings.
Yeah.
If you want to be a select board member, run for select board.
Right.
But I think that asking for a 5-person board is complicated on a number of different levels. I also worry that it politicizes the work that this board does. I worry that it would bring in agendas that people would hope to work together on outside of board meetings, and open up conversations outside of board meetings that might be driven by personal agendas. And I think that people, again, if you're going to be signing that petition or presenting it, and or when you're voting on this, I think you need to think hard about where those folks are going to come from and what the.
Yeah, if we have more access, the 3 of you, we don't have to convince 5.
We're here
We're here.
every 2 weeks, all the time, and we're more than happy to have conversations about everything.
And I want to say 5 people doesn't necessarily mean better representation.
That's
It
right.
doesn't, it depends on who those 5 people are, you know, and it depends on,
See,
does it really serve the town better to have more people? Because
And
that's really the
And I
question.
would also like to echo what Josh said, and, you know, make it a little personal. The seat that I ran for last year was the first contested election for the select board in at least 7 to 8 years, and maybe even more. I don't even know.
16 in my time.
Okay, so that's, and I am still on 2 other boards, and one of the main reasons why I'm on those 2 boards is because I cannot find anyone else to run to replace me. I echo the same feeling. If you're signing that petition, I really hope you're going to be putting your name in a hat to be on a committee or a board or a commission, because we need the help.
We were talking about putting these articles on, and an article that I would be interested in putting on to see if the town would want to fund just that, getting the email list, getting the text out, because I think that's how you're gonna get people involved, and that could possibly counter this idea that we need more involvement and only by representing people on the board. So I don't know whether I still have time to get those signatures to get it on your article.
You have to talk to Jonathan.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he's the town clerk.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
thank you for,
I have one question about that.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
What are the legal consequences if we vote for a 5-person board and we don't fill those seats? I mean, if we only have 3 people who are willing to actually serve on the select board, but we have a 5-person board, does that constitute a quorum?
Yeah, it would constitute a quorum, but the select board is then on tap to find 2 people. The statute says that we need to find people forthwith, whatever that means. So we would constantly be trying to recruit people instead of doing the town's business.
And then the other aspect of that, Robin, is that if we were able to find one other person, we end up with a 4-person board,
Right.
and then that causes quorum / majority voting questions. So I'm not sure people understand the implications of having a 5-person board to the degree that they should in having this conversation. So, and again, more voices in the room, great. More empty slots in the room, not so great.
yeah. My experience with activism groups is that there's always a core group that
Right,
gets her done.
right,
And there may be 5, but there's always 3,
right,
or 2 that are actually getting her done.
yeah,
And more people is much more, it's counterproductive.
can certainly be,
Mhm. Yeah.
yes. Side conversations, yeah. All right, thank you, everyone. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I second that.
All in favor?
I-
Aye.
Thank you all.
See you, Robin, see you, Mary.